What's going on, guys? Today, we got a lot of new information from BSG. A couple few things. First and foremost, we got information on the hardcore wipe. We're going to talk about that in just a second. But there's a couple things they posted today that we want to mention and bring up to you guys too. First thing is Battlestate Games posted. We'd like to remind you that you have a chance to help with the growth of EFT community in your country by participating in EFT translation project. To join, just follow the link. The link takes you to a website called CrowdIn. Up in the top right, you can sign in, choose the language that you are fluent in, and you can help translate everything that they need translated. The next thing that they posted is a little more game, well, is very much more game related. And that is, as part of the upcoming updates in Escape from Tarkov, all containers, backpacks included, will have a storage stacking limit. This is necessary to avoid situations where players would get stuck on the profile loading screen due to excessive amount of items in the stash. The change will mostly affect PvE players who have stacked 7 or more items inside of each other, i.e. backpacks. All items that exceed the limit will be deleted. So get on the game, unstack your backpacks, find a new way to keep them 7 or less, or just get rid of some shit. But yeah, that stuff's going to be deleted. In order to avoid situations where valuable items are lost, we ask players to sort parts of the stash that may be subject to this change. All players who lost at least one item after will be given an in-game compensation. So this is not a bad thing, in my opinion. I think if anything, that's going to help the game load smoother, run smoother, and just perform better overall. I'm all for it. I think this is really aimed at like those partisan backpack stashers that just have 20
Yeah,
of them stacked
yeah,
or so. Infinite storage space is nice, but at the same time, it's not really in the eyes or the design of the game, and then if it's also causing issues with loading,
yeah. It's
um,
just hard
it's
on
just
the servers. Like
yeah,
it's infinite data that the server has to sit there and transfer back and forth. It's just
it's a lot.
impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, get on the game, check that out. Make sure you open up the space that you need to open up, remove any items out of there that you need to get rid of, and just sell the stuff so you don't lose it, I guess.
That brings up a question I just thought of. If that means that PVE players are not going to have to wipe, are they
Hmm?
going to participate in hardcore?
What do you mean? Where'd you get no wipe?
Well, because PVE is not supposed to have a wipe until the 1.0 wipe. Like that's what Nikita said. You're going to have to wipe if you want the 1.0 shit.
Oh, that's true.
Well,
Maybe it'll be an
we have a
optional
new.
wipe,
I was gonna say we have a new hardcore, and it's like, is it gonna be you have to wipe to participate in it? Because yeah, like
potentially.
you can't let people participate in hardcore if they got a stash full of shit.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. They'll have to wipe if they want to take part in it. I'd imagine. I'd say it'll be an optional situation because of everybody in PVE. Like, no, my stuff. Which is, I guess we can go ahead and just
Well,
that was the next topic, anyways. Was
will it be an
hardcore.
optional situation, or will it be PVE just does not get to participate?
That is a
That's what I'm
potential
thinking.
option. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Which I'd be fine with. I've been doing more
yeah, yeah, yeah.
PvP stuff lately, anyways, which has just been fun. And hardcore is a lot of fun to play it, anyways. But that's the
Well,
next topic, anyways, is the problem that we're having with Twitter currently and the hardcore wipe reveal. They gave us a bunch of information on it, and people were in uproars. So this is just another thing that people, surprisingly, we haven't seen commented on or talked about yet. I'm kind of surprised that we hadn't even thought about that yet. Um, I don't know if they're gonna let PvE take part. Like that's a real
well,
potential
it shouldn't
option is that they just
matter.
say no.
It shouldn't matter because PVE, you're whatever is going on doesn't affect. There is no community to affect, anyways. You're playing by
Right,
yourself.
right. You're solo. Even if you're
So
playing with friends,
yeah,
you're not playing against other players.
right. So if you want to do hardcore, you can do hardcore. So
Right.
I
Yeah, it's
I would
easy enough to do.
imagine, yeah, I would imagine it's just going to be a PvP only thing. Like
That seems like the
that seems to
play.
make
Yeah.
sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But with that, we know that Twitter is going nuts right now.
Oh my God,
Let
yes.
me So here's the hardcore page one. Hardcore wipe, extra challenging wipe. Here's what they've given us so far. As you can see up top, there's 3 tabs. Initial thought was potentially phase one, and then as the wipe happens, maybe phase two is introduced, and potentially phase three is introduced. But instead, maybe it's iteration one, and then before we even get to the wipe, they're going to give us iteration two and iteration three, and just kind of let people take it in stride. That way, it's not a complete and utter chaos on the social side. So they are disabling flea market. They are increasing the item requirements for hideout zones. So to start the hide, like say you want to open your med station, instead of having like 4 bandages or whatever the fuck it is, it'll be like 6 bandages, 6 of this, 6 of this. Like it just increases the amount of stuff you need to unlock the crafting ability. Hideout zones don't require found in raid items, which is great for hardcore because if you die with some stuff in your secure container, not a big deal. You can still use it towards your hideout because you are going to need it, especially if later iterations of the hardcore wipe are reduced trader interactions or no traders at all outside of tasking. And then limited hideout ammo crafts, perfectly fine with that. Keep early wipe early, or keep the early wipe field going longer. More than okay with that. And then the thing that people are having the big issue with, which is mind-boggling to Adam and I both, reduce spawn chance of rare loot. And all I want to say on this first, at first here, before we go into other stuff, is that in hardcore Tarkov, money doesn't matter. There is no flea market. There is no reason to be concerned and worried about the LEDXs, Bitcoins, fucking GPUs, this, that, and the other. Because like, if you need those things for a task, you're only going to need a limited amount of those. You're only going to need a couple of them. And then on top of that, there's no reason to farm LEDXs, keys, key cards, and all these other, high end items when there's no flea market because money doesn't fucking matter. It's irrelevant.
Yeah,
All you're gonna do with that is take up valuable stash space that you really don't want to filter full of other stuff.
right. The whole point of hardcore is you use what you find. Like,
Yeah,
you use the items in raid. It's not to get rich. It's not to have unlimited shit in your stash. It's to use what you find to progress. Like, are you afraid that it's going to stretch out some missions where it's going to take longer to complete? That's the point. Like, that's the
that
whole
is the
point.
point.
Um, and we kind of talked about this earlier before we hopped on. Like, depending on how they do it, if they roll it out in phases, which now I'm more on the side of what you was saying, where I think that they're just showing one phase at the moment.
I
Basically,
think
we're going to
that's
get everything all at once,
yeah,
but
that would make the most sense
they're
because if they were to add more difficulty spikes to it mid wipe, it becomes almost redundant. Like it's
well. The only
the
reason I
players have
was
already
thinking
gotten the
that
gear and gotten the stuff and like gotten to a place where they're grinding, and then to introduce new rules to make it harder, it's just like it kind of makes it almost pointless because it's like, oh well, we
I
already
was
got
just
past
thinking
that point.
like, like the first 2 weeks make it easier so more people try it was my thinking on it because you don't want to scare everybody off. So I thought
Right.
if they
That
make it
is
like
yeah.
easy for the first 2 weeks, you get a bunch of people hooked, and then when the more hardcore shit comes, they actually stick around.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, it could still go that way, but I the only thing I could they made it in phases for a reason. So are the phases to release and show us the phases? Is that the whole point to put it in phases? Is just so we only get to see little bits at once, or is it because we're getting little bits at once, like when we actually play? Like
Potentially.
that's the only thing I'm not sure on.
Yeah, see, my whole thought process on that was just that they know players are going to struggle and be mad about anything that they put in front of them, no matter what the like. As soon as they say, "Hey, we're switching it up. Here's the hardcore rule set," if they were to introduce everything at once, it would be pure chaos. That was my kind of my driving force behind why I was thinking that way. And
Right,
that instead they would just like, "Here's this, throw your fit, lose your mind. Yep, big change, scary. Ah, and then here's the next one. Okay, yeah, go
right.
crazy. We know, we know. Here's the last one. All right, well, that's all the rules. Chill the fuck out. I don't know, but yeah, it is interesting, and I am curious as to see how they go about it. The next thing that I do want to talk about, and this isn't something we do often. Actually, I don't think we've ever done this. But we do have just a question for a creator or two. Mostly like, what the fuck? What's this take about? Because we don't understand it. All right. So while editing today's video, Phase 2 was released, and it's everything we were talking about we wanted to have happen, and
Yes,
maybe even a little
yes.
bit more. It's extremely exciting. We're stoked. Just a quick go over it because, like I said, we were in the process of editing this video and getting this one together. We didn't want to leave this out though. So Phase 2 includes restricted location accessibility. Most of the locations will only be accessible through transitions from appropriate locations. Here's a quick look at the potential map for that. What will be locked, how to be locked. Reamer put this together, typically pretty accurate. The second step of that is secure container restrictions. Can't store ammo, currency, and certain medication. Hopefully, I think we're both kind of in agreement. Adam maybe less in agreement with this aspect of it than I am, but when it comes to the medicine, I hope they say no CMS kits, surf kits, stuff like that, just to make it extra greasy, extra grindy, extra hard. I do understand how difficult that makes things, and that's kind of what I want for it. And I also understand the other side of it of, hey, let me have my CMS kit because I don't want to fucking
Well,
limp to extract, right? Like,
Yeah, here's the thing, it makes almost if you get hurt, you get shot by a scab early and they break your leg and you can't just you can't keep CMSs, that just ruins the experience. I think that's too much. Like, you gotta be able to make it through a map,
But I
and
also we do know
unfortunately,
that
CMS
they're
kits well, they're
sorry,
so
go ahead.
rare anyways, like, they're already so rare.
Right.
Making it where you can't keep them, I think that's too much. Like
They may adjust loot pools for meds to be a little more available, and they may also, like we were saying, I don't know if it got recorded or not, but, there's a potential for, um, them to add, like, a single-use CMS to a or surgery kit to a craft, or potentially let you craft CMS kits and surgery kits, so it's a little more viable. We also know that there's probably some changes to the traders potentially, so maybe there's a way to buy them, so it's a little more because it is
yeah,
that
yeah.
is extra hardcore. That is, like, at the top of the list of hardcore right there, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Um,
that's almost impossible to survive if you
yeah,
can't surgery. If you can't fix, you're dead. Like that's
yeah.
just
Which you can still, I guess, if you find them, carry them. Obviously, you can have them on your person. It just incentivizes you taking the right fights and choosing the right situations, and it does add a lot of difficulty to it. But at the same
well, put
time,
it this way, in my playthrough already of hardcore, that's been my hardest thing to really
yeah,
keep a hold of,
yeah,
has
for sure.
been surgery kits.
Yeah, they're
Because
just
when you
they're
lose
rare.
what
They
you
don't
have,
come by enough.
there's no way to buy more, and the only way you're gonna find them is going in raid and finding them. Well, if you're out of CMS kits or you're out of surgery kits, you're screwed. Like,
Yeah,
honestly, you're
you
screwed.
are. You're in a bad spot. It is rough. So like I said, I do see that side of it 100%. I like the hardcore aspects of it, and that is hard. That is an extreme difficulty. We could talk about that one for a while, but we'll move on. Limited trader interaction, reduced range of available medicine, weapons, ammo, and armor. So no longer are you going to be able to, like you were abusing the flea market. Now you can't abuse the traders every time you die. So you might be able to buy a gun here and there, some ammo here and there, some meds here and there, but it's going to be limited because the idea is to force you in raid and make sure everything you're using is from raid. You're finding everything in raid. It just puts the focus of the game on going in raid and surviving and doing the thing. So I
Yeah,
think
and
that's
and the
that. I agree with everything else from here on out. Like this is great.
yeah, yeah. Well, where they say range too, that tells me that they're probably just gonna make it where you can only get the basics. Like, you're not gonna
Yeah,
have options, and options and options. You're gonna be able to get the basics that you need to get in. The
yeah.
majority of your other
All your
things, though,
parts
you're
and
gonna have to
stuff you're gonna have to
find.
find. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And then reduced item selling price and increased purchase price because money doesn't fucking matter and getting things from
Yeah,
traders is
oh,
irrelevant. And the only
what am
thing
I
that
gonna
fucking matters
do?
is going in raid and finding your fucking shit. Sorry,
What am I
I
gonna
know we
do?
went on tangents already about this, but guys, seriously, chill the fuck out about the money thing
Dude.
and the rare loot. It doesn't matter. If this is hardcore, completely different play style, get the fuck over it.
So you're telling me my rare loot that I fucking found, I can't sell for the same price and be completely like way too rich, more money than I'll ever need, and then just get wiped at the end of the wipe with like way too much money? You're telling me I don't have that?
No. Oh,
What the fuck?
no.
How am I
You mean
gonna
that my
play?
stash is gonna be just stuff I need instead of just useless items that I'm hoarding for no fucking reason?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
not fair,
so
dog.
it's just crazy to me that people are so hung up on the rare loot thing. Hopefully this piece of information helps you guys
Yes,
understand that
yes.
this is a different playthrough. This isn't your typical
We're
Tarkov run. Even in your typical Tarkov runs, a lot of people take it a little too far with the hoarding and things like that. Um, this just
we're
is
excited
hopefully
about
gonna
this.
help you guys understand that Tarkov wants to focus on the raids, the fights, survival. That's it.
Right. And we're excited about this because everybody's been complaining. You already know we've went over it. Everyone's been
Yeah,
complaining about the rare loot chance change, and this just goes to our point that we've been saying the whole time. As in, if you're playing hardcore, loot doesn't matter. You're not
yeah,
trying to like get rich and just buy up everything you need. You're going in ready to find what you need.
yeah,
So this just goes to show you that rare loot doesn't matter. It
yeah.
doesn't matter.
It does not matter. So
Yeah.
here's the one, and we do respect Axel. We do appreciate him. He is awesome. I like watching him. Adam likes watching him. Like solid dude.
Yeah.
Typically agree with
Just
90% of the things he says, but
well,
this
that's what I
one
was
I
gonna
just can't
say
get
to
behind.
just to state before we even go into this, tons of people had this take. It's not just Axel, like a
No.
lot of other people had the same exact take. I would say majority of the comments I seen were the same take.
Yeah.
So it's not like, we're
Axel
singling
specifically
out
getting called out,
Axel.
right? This is
Yeah,
just
it's
the
just
take that we grabbed.
we normally seem to agree with Axel a lot, so it's kind of like it's a good representation of like somebody that we're normally in the same mindset, and it's like here we have a real serious like disagreement, and we're just using him to showcase like, hey, people we respect, people that play the game and are really good at the game, they're saying this, and we don't understand why. So that's
Right.
the only reason we're using him.
So he says, looking good, except not sure about rare loot decrease. Even this wipe, it's kind of rare, and next wipe, it won't be easy getting good keys. So it's even more difficult to get good items on top of lower spawn chance of those items. So, first off, I don't think either one of us have ever gone in raid and been like, oh shit, Tarkov doesn't have loot. We can't find this specific thing. And you know what? Even if something took us a few raids to attempt to find, bloody rusted key, looking for lead X's early on, stuff like that. Um, that just helps the longevity of the game. So it's like it's not a bad thing that we can't find everything day one, first raid. Like the fact that
Right.
you have to look for these items is kind of a part of what keeps Tarkov interesting. Um,
Yeah, I've
but
never
the
wanted to find everything as soon as I go in. Like
yeah,
that's
same.
just I don't want the game to do that way.
No. But the thing that really gets me is why people are so concerned about rare loot in a hardcore Tarkov when money's irrelevant and the flea market is closed.
Yeah.
Even if you need
Yeah,
money
and
for trader things like to buy guns, ammo, kits, pieces, whatever, that stuff is relatively inexpensive. Relatively inexpensive
inexpensive.
and expensive. Relatively inexpensive, and it's not like something that you need millions and millions of rubles to consistently have decent gear from traders. So it's like if money
Well,
is
and
the driving force behind this anger and this issue, then you need to just change your perspective because the things that are going to be valuable now to you are going to be high tier or high level armor plates, good ammo, good weapon parts, scopes, suppressors, stuff like that. So it's just like it's just kind of weird to us, to each their
well, and
own.
if it
If
goes
that's how you want to play Tarkov, then I'll be, that's fine. But when you're looking at it from the hardcore perspective specifically, you kind of have to change up your play style and you kind of have to think a little bit differently as to what's important and what isn't important.
well, if it goes the way we're thinking, you're not even going to need money for traders
Right.
because you're going to be using the shit you find. And when they drop the second or third page, I'm hoping that's going to be on there. So it's like you're not even going to need money for traders. So what is the reasoning to where you need more loot?
All this extra
And
loot. Yeah.
I guess here's the bigger question. What are these people thinking by the term rare loot?
Right.
It's like, what are they including in that they think they absolutely need
Red
and
Rebels,
there's not enough
Tigers,
of?
or like, yeah, like what? Well, because that's the other thing too, right? Is it's like, when have you ever gone in raid and been like, man, there's no loot, there's no loot, I can't find anything. I've been playing for hours and hours and hours, several raids, and I have accomplished nothing in my loot grind, right? Like that's never happened. Sure, you can open a marked room and it's not good, but these things aren't like a guaranteed percent chance that they are supposed to be like looted up. It's just the fact that if you are going to find high tier loot in that room, you need this key, and there is a chance that there is good loot behind it. And even when the marked rooms aren't great, out of your 10 uses of like dorms marked room before this, uh, anyways, before this loot buff that they just did on marked rooms, which is just a one off for the pre wipe, um, if you would use your 10 uses of the key, you typically get your money back. Sometimes you don't. And like that's just part of the game. That is a chance you take when you buy those keys or you find that key and like you start opening that door. You have the opportunity or had the opportunity to sell the key and get your money up front, or go in and take the chance of opening the door 10 times, seeing what you can get, and potentially, making a big profit or not profiting at all. And that's just an integral part of the game, in my opinion. It's what keeps people grinding longer, because if the maps were just loaded with loot, everybody would have everything. People would fall off from playing sooner, and the early wipe that supposedly everyone loves and wants, that hardcore wipe is trying to establish and give us, um, would just end that much sooner. So it's like there's a lot of, oh, I love the idea behind this, but I really dislike this rare loot decrease. Like it just doesn't. You can't have one without the other, right?
Right.
You kind of
Yeah, they kind
need
of go
for
hand
it.
in hand.
Yeah. And the other side of that
Well,
too, again, I'm gonna say it one more time just to kind of beat the point home, is money doesn't fucking matter. You don't have a flea market. Why do you need multiple of these items? Why do you need to find everything over and over and over again? Like, can't you just grind it out and focus on another aspect of the game? gear, guns, ammo, parts, things that are actually important to you going and raid and succeeding. It's just,
Well, that's why
again,
I
I think
asked the
it's just a perspective
question,
shift.
what is rare loot to these people? Are they thinking like good guns, good armor as rare loot? Are they thinking like quest items like are going to be hard? Are they, like there's it's almost like there's got to be a mix up or there's got to be a disconnect in what we're thinking rare loot is versus what they're thinking rare loot is. Because why would you want money and like gold items and lead X's and like I just I don't think that shit is important. Why would they think it's important? And the only thing I can think of is they're just not thinking about that. They're thinking more along the lines of like good gun parts, good armor, um, just ways to,
Yeah, that could be it.
survive.
Yeah.
It's got to be something like that because I there's so many players that I just don't see that many people being afraid to play Tarkov without money. Like it
Well,
just
here's the
doesn't make
thing.
sense.
When it comes to like the ammo, gear spawn, stuff like that, I don't really relate to that either because even if I go in on a scav raid 20 minutes into the raid, you just have to loot. You just look around. You find plenty of gear, plenty of stuff. Like I walk out of raids as a scav loaded down all the time with good shit. And the same is true for my PMC. You go and raid and you have to look through containers. You have to look for stuff. It just changes it you don't just get to run to the big room that's the best in the map and open it up and get everything you need. Instead, you actually have to play through the map and actually try to find the gear and find the things and fight your way through it. Um, yeah, it's just it weirds me out. I don't understand it. Here's a take from
Yeah,
Chief.
yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Hopefully, they adjust the loot pool, reducing spawn chance of rare loot, in parentheses, which the spawn percent has already been lowered a ton. Seems like we're going to be fighting over scraps. Need to see increase in ammo slash gear spawns in game. That is a reasonable take, I think, to the degree of at least you're specifying what you think the rare loot would be and what you would like to see it increased. I just
Somewhat,
still
but
can't yeah, I still can't get
yeah, I
behind the
still
whole
not
idea
still not on
of
board.
the
Yeah.
like the fact that people think that currently the loot is so much worse now. Like sure, even if they did reduce it a little, it's still completely manageable. And it's like you don't need to have hundreds of millions of rubles and 35
Well,
LEDXs and 65 Bitcoins, 46 GPUs, all the high end ammo. Like it
that's the
literally just
thing
expands the early
is
wipe that much longer. Like there's nothing wrong with that.
you could go to each of these guys' stash right now, and I guarantee you it's full of high end late game meta best in class shit. You know what I mean? Like
Oh, 100%.
it's like the way people are acting like, oh, it's already hard to find shit right now. They better not lower it more. That's the part I don't get. I'm like, what
Yeah,
the fuck are you
that's
talking about?
mind-boggling.
Yeah, like, are we playing the same game? Like,
Right.
I have no issue finding things. Like, and I don't think they do either. Is the thing. That's the part I'm confused about because, like I said, you go to any of their stashes, they're the ones usually sitting at like 500 million rubles and just insane amounts of
Gear
whatever the
and
best
yeah.
best shit is. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
you absolutely need more of that. Is that what you're saying? Because that
Yeah.
doesn't make sense.
Does not make sense.
It's just
It's
yeah,
a
I'm just
wild take. And I think
yeah.
that's what throws us off the most is the fact that it just doesn't make sense, right? It's not like if they were arguing a point that was justifiable, it would be like, okay, that's understandable. Like you're missing the point of what hardcore Tarkov is, which they are all doing it currently anyways. But at least you have a justified point. With this, it's like, what the fuck? Like you said, what the fuck are you talking about? Because it just
Yeah,
doesn't add up. It doesn't make
it
sense.
doesn't.
And by all means, if any of you guys hear this, anybody that's a bigger creator or that has access to a bigger creator and they know the answer, have them get with us, let us know because we're not trying to be assholes. We're just genuinely confused. We don't understand the take. We think this is a very mild, dumbed down idea for what hardcore Tarkov should be. And to us, it's just like, yeah, this is reasonable. This is like the most fair, reasonable hardcore rule set that they could have introduced to force all players into. Um,
Yeah.
so like
But the
it,
most
to
confusing part is these people like normally have good takes. Normally, if I disagree, it's like we can at least talk about it and come to an understanding of what they're
right,
saying and understand their reasoning. This time, it's like 90% of the people are on the opposite side of what we're saying. So that
yeah.
genuinely confuses me where I'm like, are we just like way off on this somehow? Because
And
I
I don't
don't understand how.
I don't think that's the case. I think that so many players the majority of players are extremely wrapped up in the idea of how Tarkov is played currently, and the fact that you need money, you need this, you want to find those items, like that equates to the value of what you've done throughout your wipe. Where with hardcore Tarkov, it's more about the things that you find, like it's just what happens in raid. It's purely in
Well,
raid action all the time. Like
but
money doesn't matter,
the
your
confusing
hideout doesn't
part
really
is even
matter.
the
Like
well, even the first part that you said, like normal Tarkov. I don't even agree with him on the normal Tarkov take that
no,
loot's
yeah,
already like hard.
that's
Like
crazy.
that's where I'm so confused. I'm genuinely confused because I cannot understand where they're getting that from. Like
No,
I've played Tarkov for years and years and years and years and years. There's always been loot changes. There's always been, little bits of differences wipe to wipe. But for the majority of the time, the loot's been about the same. Like
yeah,
it's never went crazily one way or the other.
no,
And I think right now it's in the same place pretty much that it's always been.
yeah, I
So
don't think it's
I
any
don't
major difference. Actually,
understand the
in
take.
fact, I think that certain things seem easier to find
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
in
It
the high
it's
tier loot stuff. Like there's times where we'll go in and find multiple of high end items, and it's just like okay, but what I just don't, yeah, like you said, I just don't understand. And it makes, like you again, like you just said, it makes you feel kinda crazy because it's like,
yeah.
what are we missing? What, because we are like the 2% where the rest of the community, the 98 is like, "Oh, this is fucked. We can't deal with this. Like, what are we gonna do?" And it's like, "No, no, no."
Well,
Like, there are people, I don't wanna say we're the only 2.
I
There are s
well that's what I was
plenty of
about to
people
say.
who are with us or agree with what we're
Right.
saying or think that
And
Tarkov hardcore should be much more hardcore and pushed in, like,
right.
further in, go deeper, go deeper. Um,
And some of
but,
those
like,
guys are people who play hardcore and they understand like we do, you know, what we're going for. And it's like Pestily's one of them and
Very Bad
Very
Scab,
Bad Scab
Pestily,
was
Giga
another
Beef,
one.
several people.
Yeah, so it's like, yeah, Giga. So it's like, and those guys I also, usually agree with. So it's like the fact that we're on the same page with them, it lets me know that it's not just a us thing. I think it's more of a community just not looking at things the same. I think there's a disconnect somewhere. I think
There is a
there's,
major
um,
disconnect, and I think it's
yeah, there's a
perspective. I think it genuinely is perspective. I just don't think people understand and realize, like, what Hardcore Tarkov wants you to play for and, like, how it wants you to play versus how regular Tarkov wants you to play, because Hardcore
right.
Tarkov is its own animal. It is completely
Well, because
different. Not completely different, but
even
it
when
is, there's major differences.
even when Pestily suggested, "Hey, BSG, I'd like to see us starting with nothing but a melee," I seen so many streamers like, "No, dude, that's way too far." Like,
Right.
but that's not. That's how hardcore goes. Like, that's not
Yeah.
too far.
You literally
So
have to
it's
kill
like,
one scab and you're in the race, you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, yeah. And once you get a scav gun, you're set. Like, you
Yeah.
don't have to have a meta gun. Like,
Because guess what? Every other player is starting the same way you're starting. Even in a week's
yeah,
time from the start of Hardcore Tarkov, if they introduce a more severe hardcore rule set, you're going to see just early wipe extended for everybody. And that's I think the best, like, way to look at it at the moment is that it's literally just an extended early wipe. It's you don't have a flea market no matter what level you are. So you're always just looking for what you can find in raid. And then it starts pushing you into these scenarios where it's like, okay, well, I do have a bunch of 545 BP. I got a bunch of, meds, I got a serve kit, I got all this stuff. My case is full, my backpack's full. Now there's a fight over here. Do I want to push that fight or do I just need to, like, survive? And it really just
right.
kind of changes, like, instead of being like, oh, well, I can just buy a serve kit from Jaeger or I can just, get on the flea market and purchase everything I need to rebuild this kit. Now it's like, well, I do have this really nice scope. I got a suppressor. Like, I got these things. I don't really want to lose them. You could check out the fight. If it looks like it's something you could win, take your shots. If it's, bad spot, bad positioning, uh a bad fight, like it's a 3v1 and they're posted up pretty decently, like you actually have to think about and weigh your possibilities and consider all aspects of it instead of just w king. Oh, it doesn't matter if I live or die, I've got hundreds of millions of rubles, I can just rebuild and reset and re-go again. I've have like, so it's just it's genuinely just a perspective shift. And I think
Well,
that a lot of players will realize that once they start playing, they're like, "Oh, this isn't that bad. This is just Tarkov
yeah.
without worrying about making a bunch of money."
And I think that's my issue. That's what I'm so afraid of. I'm afraid that if they don't make it hardcore enough, it's going to defeat the whole purpose
Yeah,
of
it'll
even
be
having
almost
hardcore.
obsolete, right?
Yeah, people will not understand the fun parts of it because if it's like half and half, then it's just going to be things that are just aggravating and they're
Right,
not going to have a purpose.
right.
Um, so it's
Which
like
is
when
also
you
why I
do
think they're gonna
hardcore,
introduce all 3 sections of the rule set before we get to the wipe,
right?
because it
But
wouldn't make sense to half-ass it off rip.
already when you do hardcore, like the hardcore playthrough that I've been doing, I eventually got to a point where I was fine on gear.
And
Like
we start in a
it,
very hardcore sense. We go as
yeah, we
extreme as
do
you
as
can.
hardcore as you can. Yeah, you sell everything at the beginning. You can't use the traders. You can't use the flea market. You are finding everything in raid, like
Yeah.
everything.
You start with the
So
melee. If you go in
I,
with a buddy and your buddy dies, you leave his shit lay. That's not your shit.
yeah,
That's
you
his
can't.
shit. No insurance, no nothing. If your dude dies, it doesn't matter if he had a good shit. You leave it.
Yeah, you
It's not
you lose
yours.
it in raid. You lose it. There's no
Yeah.
way of getting something back.
That
You
way your
cannot
friends
hold
can't
on to
save your
anything.
ass and keep you geared out and
Yeah.
things like that.
And
It's just
also that way they can't get a come up from your dead body too. It's like
right,
they have to find that gear just like you would have whether you was, in raid together or not.
right.
But even playing like that, I'm already to the point now where it's like I'm like level 30 and my stash is full. I got plenty of good shit, good guns,
Yeah.
good ammo, good armor.
Well, and
And I want it to be harder than that and it's already nowhere close because it's like even that was a little too easy for me now. Even that I'm still wanting that, like something to be more difficult just so I don't get there so fast. Now, I think when the whole community's playing that way, I think that will make it like that. So I'm looking forward to that because that's the one thing we've never had is where the whole community is playing in the same way. So that might be the little extra on top that makes it extend even longer. So that might, we might not need anything else, but I'm hoping that they at least go that far. That way people get to actually understand the good parts of it. Because if they do the half and half shit, then people are not going to get to play the exciting parts of it, and it's just going to be frustration from the community. And they're going to be like, "Yeah, see, we told you it was so stupid. It wasn't worth trying." If they just do like no flea and then
right.
like harder barters, harder trades, that's not going to do it.
Yeah, I agree. You're right. You're right. We are pushing on to a pretty long time here, so we're gonna end it there. But I do want to end with just a couple questions to the community. Why are so many people worried about money in hardcore Tarkov? Why do players think progression has to be sped up to a point that early wipe is almost irrelevant when everyone says they want early wipe longer? And then lastly, the last thing I want to know is, do you really think that switching up your playstyle is really going to ruin your Tarkov experience? Those are all just a few questions that, feel free to answer back to us. Let us know.
Yeah, and one more question, real quick. Why does everybody say that they want it? They start their sentence by saying, "I love all these changes, but I don't want any of these changes." It's
Yeah, that
like,
one's,
like that's
yeah,
that sentence doesn't make sense. Come on
yeah,
now, like it doesn't
for
make
sure, for
sense.
sure, for sure. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like the vid and let us know your thoughts on Hardcore Tarkov. And of course, if you haven't yet, consider subscribing to the channel. We're on the road to 1K, so it helps us out a lot and it keeps you up to date with all of our content. Thanks to all our subscribers and a special thanks to our channel members. We appreciate your support. If you'd like to help us out, consider becoming a member below. We'll catch you next week. See ya.